This here's Lenore Zan, and you're watching Fandoms.
Welcome to Fandoms, a show from every fan's point of view.
And welcome to Fandoms. Again, my name is Tony. I am the host of the show. I am running solo at the moment. We do have a guest that will be joining us a little bit shortly. Will is out on assignment. I wouldn't say that so much. He's got something else that came up this evening, and that's perfectly fine. Thank you guys for watching with us. And if you aren't aware of this already, we are streaming dually on the Nerd Initiative Network as well as on its Fanbox. This is the second to last. This is the show before the last show, as we will be streaming on the Nerd Initiative Network. And we will be focusing specifically on its Fanbox and building that. And if you missed, you can go back to the last episode and look at the update. There's also a post on the It's Fanbox YouTube channel, as well as on Nerd Initiatives about Michael and my announcement of starting something new. And we would definitely appreciate you guys following us on It's Fanbox. It's at It's Fanbox everywhere you can find Nerd Initiative. We will be trying to do more user engagement as we are working with its Fanbox, and we're looking forward to it. The whole concept, it's a sandbox, it's a soapbox, it's Fanbox. So we will be touching on things, whether it be toxicity in the fandom or anything else along with it. And so before we get started, we're going to be talking about video game adaptations, whether it's on the small screen or on the big screen, just to kind of give you like a little heads up of kind of what's been going on in my world before I bring my guest on. If you guys are looking at a way of jumping into Batman, which honestly, I didn't think in my sphere of being so focused on Marvel, I would want to do that. I actually was sent the Batman 0 Year. It's a compilation from Fanhome, and I will say I really enjoyed this. If you like Batman Begins, 0 Year actually kind of starts that way, and it's definitely an interesting story. And I can't wait to kind of read more and look into that. The other thing that I want to go ahead and let you guys know, and if you're not a guy who goes to Bath and Body Works, which I didn't really think I was until I started burning more candles. The Stranger Things collab with Bath and Body Works has finally come out. I actually got the foaming soap for the bathroom down here because why not? It's a nerd sphere down here. So I got the Demigorgon. I've got Eddie's leather jacket and the Upside Down, which they do not smell like a rotting, decayed, upside down world, but if you want to clean your hands and you like having stuff that's collabed with Bath and Body Works, mind you, my wife has the whole Bridgerton line. That's the thing. So you can definitely check that out. And I guess I've piqued Z's interest, so I appreciate that. So to start us off, I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest on because I do not operate well by myself, and I'm absolutely glad that he was able to join us this evening. It's Ronell. Ronell, can you go ahead and whoa, you were way too small. Hold on a second.
There it is.
There we go. I like that better. Ronell, thank you for joining. Please, first of all, tell us who you are, what you do on social media, and kind of do a shameless plug, please.
For sure. First off, thank you for having me on. I am Ronell. I talk about video games on TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else you can find videos. I don't really play. I don't do gameplay. I don't stream them. I just like to talk about the player behavior. I like to talk about the culture of games, trending ideas, whether it be the controversy with free-to-play games or anything in between. And I like to do it in a fun, lighthearted way. No weird rage bait, none of that. Just nice, mindful, real talks as if you were in person. And also, I have a show coming up on YouTube called Checkpoint. But everywhere else, I'm at 8-Bit Close Fist.
That's awesome. And be sure to check out his show. We'll find some way to kind of post it, especially on his fan box. Now I will say, you don't do rage bait, you don't do anything, but you don't shy away from talking about stuff that other people kind of decide that they want to talk about. And it's funny because I was actually watching some of your videos recently, and you have an opinion about the Star Wars, I think it's Outlaws game that came out. You want to share that real quick?
Yeah. Tragic situation over there. Rather or not, you enjoy the game, like the game, dislike the game. That's fine. That's all good and dandy. But what is quite objectively a terrible practice that you should not stand for is the fact that they allowed you to play the game early on with a pre-order. That means you spend $100. One of the biggest bonuses is the fact that you get to play the game early. They allowed you to do that, and then later on released a patch that says you're going to face a game breaking bug if you don't, that will cause you to delete your entire save file, thus rendering the pre order bonus of playing early completely useless. Um, and their apology to you was a little in game trinket. That you can get, and I think that is terribly lame. That is absolutely, without a doubt, terrible. That is not good at all. But the game is alright.
You know, another game. This was through Xbox. You remember the game? You know the game Grounded.
Mhm.
When they came out with it again, if you don't know what Grounded is, guys, it's basically Honey I Shrunk the Kids with a scientist, and you're trying to figure out how to survive in the backyard of this professor's house. And when they first started, they did an early access where
Yeah.
you do that, and if you have like the Xbox Ultimate Game Pass or whatever, that worked. And of course, there was a lot of cloud whatever, and you would think, okay, the game got to a certain point in the preview where you couldn't do any more. You had to wait for the full version to come out. But what they didn't tell you was you had to start from scratch again when all that happened. And the thing with Grounded is it's a very customized yourself game. I built the most outrageous grass blade fort that
Ooh,
spanned the entire backyard,
ooh,
and
so
then
much
for
time.
that to be gone, like that was so frustrating, and there was no reward because they were like, "Oh, here's, it's early access, you're not paying anything extra other than, you're already an Ultimate Mass member." So, no, I get it. I couldn't even imagine like going so far in the game and then having to
Yeah,
start all over again.
that's terrible. That's terrible. No, it hurts, especially for those type of games, man. It's tedious. You're working to
Mhm.
get there, quite literally. So it's tough. That is
Yeah.
tough.
Oh
And
man.
Grounded is a great
S
game, by the way. I love
Yeah.
that game.
Now, another thing you don't know about Ronell, if you haven't seen his videos, is something that kind of caught my attention because I didn't know how I felt at first when I watched him actually doing his videos. Had nothing to do with what he was saying. It was everything about how he places his mic. Ronell always uses a game disc. Yes,
Uh,
exactly. Do you know
uh,
for an OCD person how upsetting that is? And I think that you don't talk about doing rage bait, but that's kind of like how many people like comment to you like, "What are you doing to that disc?"
um, it has ranged everything from haha, you're so silly to if you don't stop using discs like that, I will find you. It will be the last disc you ever touch. I've had some people make a series of videos about how absolutely frustrating that is. It's ranged from like you hate games, actually, you're a secret like agent that actually hates games. It ranges from a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of theories floating around about which game I use and why I use each game, etc. I just let them cook. I don't even notice. I just thought it was a mic.
Which is funny though, because a lot of game discs nowadays use like Blu-ray technology, which
Yeah,
the clip's not going to do anything to hurt it in the first place. It's not like it was with the DVDs where if you scratch the top, not the bottom, if you scratch the top, you were
yeah,
ruined.
yeah. No, 100% right. That is one thing that I will help ease the pain of a lot of them. I say, hey, the discs are fine. These are Blu-ray disc here. This isn't a PlayStation 2 disc yet. Uh, it's all right.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about the whole reason kind of bringing you in. This week has been big on talking about video game movies for the fact that we got a Sonic 3 trailer, which by far, Keanu Reeves as Shadow. People didn't know they wanted it, but obviously we wanted it, and I think it was kind of a good nod. But the fact of the Keanu Reeves was teased in the first Sonic film because of how much Sonic loves him. So why not bring the person in? There's a lot of lore to it, but really it kind of brings up to mind with like Sonic, the Sonic trilogy, Fallout, the cancellation of the Halo show, and with The Last of Us being such a hit this last year, just talking about video game adaptations as a whole, because I mean, let's face it, whenever we think about video games and their movies,
Mario.
at some point you have to get back to Mario Bros. In 1995. Which was funny because the only thing that was going for that movie at the time was the fact that Jurassic Park was shortly before it, and everyone was on the dino craze, and they really pushed the Yoshi puppet as much as they possibly could in the promotions, and they gave us none of that. So I mean, let's go ahead and start from the beginning. Mario Bros.
You know what's funny though? Like every time I think of video game adaptation, I immediately go back to Resident Evil. That's the one that I don't know if that's just because I don't know why that one sticks out to me. I think it's because that's one of the things that was like, I was there for the release. I wasn't really there for the release of Mario. You know what I mean? Like the very first Mario game. But Resident Evil, like I seen it, I heard about it, I knew it was a gamer thing, and then I knew it became a movie thing. So I think in my head, that was when like, oh, they're adapting this. They're really looking over here at gaming thing and making it a movie thing. I don't know why that's my first thing that goes back to my head, and not Mario.
Do you think it could possibly be because with Resident Evil there was an actual story, there was actually like a whole mythos behind it, whereas Mario, it's Peach got kidnapped, we got to go find Bowser. It's the same side scrolls. Like you almost thought they could mess it up, but then they did, and you're like, okay, right. It's whatever. Everyone has some spatial awareness of Mario, but for individual, especially growing up in like the late 90s and in the 2000s, the Resident Evil stories have always been a lot. I mean, that was even also with the advent of like the PlayStation, where there was a little bit more hardcore gaming. Yeah. Whereas you had people that were like focused. I mean, you had the Final Fantasies. You've got, I mean, I didn't even think about this. I was making a list of video games. Final Fantasy: The Spirit Within. I still don't know sometimes after watching that film if I even remember what it was about, other than it was like part of Final Fantasy, but it really wasn't. And it was like, it was okay. But yeah, Resident Evil. And the funny part is, if you really go back and look, they touch on bits and pieces of the mythos, but they don't follow the story very well at all.
They don't. Yeah.
But it's probably the thing that we all grew up with more.
Yeah. And I think it's because it was like big blockbuster. Like, I think this was the time I was able to see like all the marketing for it and the release, the press release going up to it. And it was like freaking Resident Evil was becoming a movie. The Mario thing, I don't think I was able to realize how bad it was. I was like, oh, this, I guess it's Mario though. Like, you know what I mean? Like in my head, I was like, what are they gonna do anyway? You know what I mean? Like they can't make Mario good. The Resident Evil thing, I was like, they could make this good. This could be the start of something great. And it was not the start of anything great at all, actually.
But it was the start of something because it went for a good number of movies, and it went progressively better and then worse. So, which was kind of like a feat, because in a sense, you could say if one of them was bad, that it wasn't part of the story because it was just something else. Because honestly, how many times did Alice die in the series? Yeah. And you find out it's not that Alice, it was somebody else.
Which is weird too, because I wonder how Resident Evil became the one. Like what executives looked at all of gaming, looked at everything that was going on and said, Resident Evil, the people are ripe for Resident Evil. You know what I mean? I wonder what that even was to begin with.
I really think it was kind of also the start of like the whole zombie genre for like Walking Dead and like the Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that. And so people were very much more into it, and they're like, oh, look, it's a video game that has all this stuff. And let's face it, nobody pays attention to video games, and they didn't realize there's this huge fan base.
Yeah.
But going even farther back before that, because I mean, like after Mario, the two video game movies that I really thought about that I thought were actually good because they didn't take themselves seriously was the Street Fighter film with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Mind you, it had Raul Julia in it. If anything had Raul Julia in it, I absolutely loved it.
For sure.
You know, and when it's the same thing, like when you think of like Chadwick Boseman or was it Anton Yelton, it's like actors that were taken before their prime. I mean, everyone knew Raul Julia, either it was from Addams Family or something else, but he was so good as Bison in that film. And even though like Baraka and everything else was kind of trash, you accepted it. And it was even at the end when you had the whole, what was it? It was like one of the first end credit scenes that I remember seeing after the credits, where Bison's hand came out of the rubble and was like replay. And it's like, okay, absolutely. This is, I don't care if it's good or not. It was worth it.
It was pretty good.
And yeah, it was. The fact that it didn't take itself seriously. And then in turn, Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
That first Mortal Kombat, let's not talk about the second one.
Yeah.
It knew what it was, because even Mortal Kombat itself was campy in the sense of friendship, fatalities, and you know, all these other things. And they were willing to go that direction and do those things. I remember when, what was it Johnny Cage or whoever it was, and he signs his autograph and throws it at the end of the battle, like you're sitting there go, okay, I don't care, you know, it doesn't, this is not reality at all.
This is for fun.
You know? Exactly.
Yeah, and it worked. I remember seeing that on Spike TV a million times after they or TBS.
Oh, and Goro was like, let's face it, it was great at the time. Like it was claymation, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't anything like, I think it was like it was like a mixture of practical, maybe claymation.
Actually,
I don't think they were doing the CG.
Yeah, no, it definitely was a CG. It felt more like claymation, if anything. Like, I'm sure the behind the scenes is like him super small, didn't zoomed in or something. I don't know. 1000% Mortal Kombat did it, right? Mortal Kombat was great. And I think part of it is because Mortal Kombat felt like a movie that was toward the game, more toward gamers. And this will all change in the future, right? We can say this now, but like it was catered more toward gamers. So it just made sense and it worked better. You know, like they didn't feel the need to completely, you know, dilute it to make it, you know, consumable for the public. They was able to say, yo, this is good. It's weird. It's funny. We can kind of do almost what we want with the story. Just let it cook. And they did.
Absolutely. And I mean, there was the tease at the end, you know, for more. And then we saw what happened when we got more. And I think that's kind of where it's going. And it's weird because I'll be honest with you, like recent movies that we had Halo, which was getting criticism at the beginning. And I think the second season cooked better than the first, but it really still wasn't there for a lot of people. Fallout's been great.
Spectacular.
The Last of Us,
spectacular,
insane. And it's funny because I think the biggest joke right now with Last of Us is everybody's like, oh, I can't wait to see the second season. You're like, no, you're not.
Oh,
you're not looking forward to it.
I don't know what they're going to do, because I feel like they're definitely going to switch something up. We can get into a Last of Us conversation a little bit, but I do think what they're seeing now is that they can trust the fact that video game stories and writing and lore and costumes even are good. We can put it on the screen and the people won't think it's too weird, you know?
Sure.
And not even talking about the animation. The animation is also great, right? Cyberpunk, Edge Runners is spectacular. Even the ones that aren't talked about, like Tekken. Tekken had an animated adaptation on Netflix, and it's really good. Arcane is some of the best television I watched probably ever. It's spectacular. So it keeps on going, and I think the difference that we're kind of seeing is them being afraid to really even bring video game out here. They wanted the gamers to go to the movies maybe, but they didn't want any of the video game like lore or story or anything that made the game or that IP special They wanted
Yeah.
to just completely change it. Whereas now they're like, yo, it's successful for a reason. We don't need to do anything. Let it rock.
Yeah. And I think it's also good for like, um, for some, because the stories are so well done. It's almost like in some cases with certain franchises, and I'm going to mention one that they messed up, that the story is so well written, you could almost do a frame for frame match of it and people would enjoy it. And yet still sometimes, depending on the studio, Sony
Mhm.
has the ability to mess things up, Uncharted,
Mhm.
and give us something that for the casual person who does, I mean, let's face it, the whole joke about Uncharted 2 when it first came out was the fact that there were, if you remember, like the VP of gaming for
Mhm.
Sony was
Mhm.
that the girlfriend was watching Uncharted, not
Oh,
realizing it was a
yes.
game.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Damn, that was
the
a thing.
reason it was a thing, like it was a good game, it was a
Yeah.
good story, and then we got Mark Wahlberg, and
Which is
I'm not
crazy.
yeah.
And Tom Holland, man, which is crazy. I get it.
Yeah.
They wanted to go young, I guess. Whatever.
It's the parkour aspect. I think Tom Holland was more of the flexibility of it, but it's like it was as close to a modern day Indiana Jones that we didn't get in the film. And I thought there were some good parts of the film and there was potential, but at the same time, this was like you don't establish the character and then go back and look at his past,
Mhm.
like the Drake's
Mhm.
deception and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
you've got, this story that is it again, it's the problem with these movies is the origin story. Fallout didn't really give us an origin story except
And
for
thank God,
flashbacks.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Right.
could you imagine if we would have had a full explanation about what was, no, they just threw us in the world and we
Yes.
accepted it.
Yes.
It's like a lot of movies where, and this is the thing, like a lot of good movies that, let's say they weren't big budget or whatever else. I'm thinking about one that was called, I think it was like Love and Monsters. It was not even a video game movie, but it was
Mhm.
just, you threw them in this post-apocalyptic world where
Yeah.
animals were turning into monsters and people were trying to survive. You didn't need a whole explanation. You just give us flashbacks. And even those didn't complete the story. You just needed to give us enough to be like, oh, okay, we can connect in our own our minds. But they didn't need to do that. And I think that's where the problem. I will say with the recent trailer that came out this week with Sonic, um, we kind of got an origin story for Sonic, but it was more of a putting the character we knew in this world
Mhm.
that he's in. And I will be honest with you, it was like when I first saw it, sans Ugly Sonic. When I first saw it, it was giving me Masters of the Universe vibes, and this may age
Yeah.
me a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like the Master of the Universe movie, where it's like, oh, these characters exist in their own universe. We're gonna bring them into the Earth, and it's not gonna make any sense other than they're out of place. Whereas Sonic has been like he's like this refugee from his world,
Mhm.
and it worked. It actually worked better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was more for the fact of Jim Carrey's Robotnik just being more likable than he ever was in the video games
Right.
to
Right.
to give us a reason to really root for Sonic. So,
Which is because Jim Carrey is amazing. Um,
oh
so
yeah.
like that makes perfect sense. I agree too. Like I know there were still some controversies about the first Sonic as far as like too many humans. I
Mhm.
guess. And I get that. I think they did a really good job eventually and in general of just like again letting games be games. Sonic
Mhm.
is cool. Going back to Uncharted, they try to turn it on its head. They try to take a popular IP and movieify it instead of just like making a movie about the game, if that makes any sense. Like Uncharted still like it could have been so great. You know what I'm saying? Like it's Uncharted.
Mhm.
We love the story. We love the cinematics. Nathan Drake is a great main character. One of the
Oh
best,
yeah.
honestly, in video games. His arc, like his character development is fantastic. His supporting
Mhm.
cast outside of freaking, it couldn't have been it didn't have to be Mark Wahlberg.
No.
How it became Mark Wahlberg is beyond me. But the movie make this a movie filter was very strong on that.
I'll be honest with you. I really felt like Sully should have been like Bruce Campbell. Like
Yeah,
that's more of who I was getting for that character.
yeah,
And it's like Nah,
Give me an
no.
older, and they're so afraid to cater to like not even cater, but like they're so afraid to have older people. Like it just felt like they really wanted to like, if we're gonna make this franchise, we need to start off everybody as like really young, and then
Mhm.
just in case, and like it just didn't work. Just didn't work for Sony. I mean for
Yeah,
for Uncharted and Sony,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
But it is working for Sonic. Now Sony, they got some other things in the mix. Speaking specifically of Sony, they still have God of War, which is a very big deal. Okay, very big deal. We'll circle back to God of War, and then they have actually they canceled Horizon Zero Dawn, I believe, right?
Mhm. I think
That
so.
I believe that got canceled, and Twisted Metal, which wasn't terrible.
Yeah, you can tell Anthony Mackie was having a lot of fun with that show too.
Yeah, and from the first trailer, obviously most of us said this is pathetic. Absolutely not. But if you actually seen it, it's actually pretty good. I didn't see Gran Turismo though. I didn't see that at all.
But
But
wasn't that more of a like a real life story outside of the game? It wasn't really the game itself, so it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, they did one of those tricks. Yeah.
yeah,
But God of War and the Kratos live action, that is monumental. Obviously people are saying Chris Judge is right there. Just give it to Chris Judge. Let him be the actor. I don't know if we even have a Kratos yet. Um, but if they can't mess this up. They can't mess this up.
I know, I know. Like, and the thing is, it's gonna be a big hit, or it's going to be something that is going to be monumentally crapped on because people are going to
Yeah.
be so upset with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I don't even
yeah,
know
it's a fine line,
I don't even know
and
what
Sony doesn't have a good track record.
they don't. They don't. And I don't know what their plan is necessarily going into it. Like I don't know if they're planning on I just don't know. I don't know if they're gonna do a younger thing. We don't have anything about it. It may or may not get canceled. But it can end as badly as Halo. That is 100% sure.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny. I was on my co-host Will his show Netheads on the Smodcast network, and we were talking about it. And one of the episodes he asked me to do like two lies and a truth, or no, two truths and a lie. And the one I did was that the Halo show was canceled, but Microsoft was going to make a video game that kept the story going, and people thought that was more believable than the
Wow.
other stuff I said. And it's like, yeah, that no, I don't think anybody wants that story to continue going in
Yeah.
any sense. But
Yeah.
it's funny because I mean, if you think about it, we're sitting here talking, I'm thinking like, and people are going to assume things. When we say video game adaptations, people are going to throw out there like Angry Birds, which I
Oh,
wouldn't
I
really
forgot about that.
say. I wouldn't say it's really a video game adaptation. It's like a mobile game adaptation. And again, that movie pulled nothing from the game because the game has no real lore,
Yeah.
except for maybe the stills that happened in between the games when you first started playing the game.
Yeah.
And then we've got Minecraft coming out with,
It's also true.
which I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know much about it. The casting is very interesting and how it works. I mean, even like some of the images that they've shown, like it's going to be very pixelated. Like it's going to be a more updated version of the pixelated Minecraft game. But then
Yeah.
how do the characters work and everything else? And
Minecraft will
um,
be interesting.
yeah,
And for
yeah,
me, it's I've let go. Right. I no longer have any expectations for what they will be. Like I truly know that I don't know. Case in point, to be honest with you, when Mario was first kind of announced, I didn't expect it to be good really at all. For Fallout, I almost knew that it was going to be bad. I was pretty sure that that movie was going to be bad. I mean, that show was going to be bad.
mhm.
Um, oh, I guess The Witcher kind of counts. I'm sorry, I seen Z talk about The
Oh
Witcher.
yeah.
It's is it based off the game or is it based off the books, which is based off the game? You know what I mean? It can be based off the game. I just don't know.
I think it was good as long as Henry Cavill was a part of it. Now that it's the Hemsworth brother, I don't know if that's going to fly so well because people are already criticizing it.
Yeah, and I know we know for a fact that Henry Cavill really not that the Hemsworth brother doesn't. But Henry Cavill really cares about, the stuff that he's in, and he's really a gamer. Like he really be playing. I know he's a Warhammer guy, and he's trying to make that whole thing pop off. But Henry Cavill, we trust.
Oh yeah, dude was on social media building a computer, and I'm sitting there going, yes,
right.
It's that kind of stuff you love. And then if you ever like watch him, like especially when he's like on British shows when he's talking, like he'll absolutely geek out. I think that's one of the coolest things.
Yeah. So like I have no expectations now for these things when they're announced, when they come out. I truly wouldn't know. I thought Twisted Metal was going to be trash. It wasn't. I thought Fallout was going to be terrible. It wasn't. I assumed Uncharted would be good. It wasn't. So I really have no clue when it comes to Minecraft. They could make something great. Really, I there's no telling at this point.
The Mario movie was actually really good. I enjoyed it. My kid loved it, and I think that worked for it. It worked to just kind of stay within its own, own thing and allow it to be, for the youth. And I think that worked because, mind you, we're a bunch of kids at heart anyway. So,
right.
If our kids are going to like it and it's a good story, we're definitely going to get it. And I don't know how many times, in many people's houses, Peaches has been playing, on loop. Mind you, not as much as the Frozen song, but by means, it worked, and it Minecraft could definitely work. I love that Sonic has worked. It's worked well. Especially like seeing them bring in the cast of characters, Knuckles, Tails, them willing to go. I think once they figured out how to make it look right, and they again, Paramount listened to the fans, which is a lot to say when nobody else does it. That played really well. I think they had our confidence at that point when they said, let's back it up and let's rewrite or let's redesign.
Because that's the thing that always happens, right? And it's just a movie thing. It's just an industry thing. It's a making money thing where they want to put their own spin on the characters so that they can have their own merchandise, their own licensing, their own things going on with the character. It's a little different when it comes from, a video game that is well established and we seen this character and we played as this character. We want this character. We don't want a rendition of this character. We don't want your own interpretation of this character. Don't call it the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to do that, don't even make it in close proximity and didn't go. They didn't do that with this, luckily. Unfortunately, Borderlands did try and do that. And
I haven't seen it yet.
Truly disastrous.
Oh, wow.
It is as bad as
I've heard lots of complaints. Yeah. I think the biggest thing going for it was the popcorn bucket at AMC.
Yeah, honestly. And I'm not going to be one of these people to say like, we knew this could, like, it could have worked, I think the biggest misstep was, I won't say the biggest misstep. Again, there's a lot of missteps there. Who knows? But the first red flag was definitely seeing Kevin Hart playing Roland, who's a fairly serious character and not Claptrap. I'm sure Kevin Hart said, I want to play Roland. I want to do things differently. But Claptrap has Kevin Hart DNA. Like it is the perfect character for Kevin Hart to play. And he did it. And it was just too weird. And it didn't work at all. And it sucks because Borderlands is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it failed. Yeah.
It was funny though, because when we first saw the trailers, we were in, I can't remember which movie we were in for, but my wife stopped and looked at me and I said, this could be like Guardians of the Galaxy. It has that tone or that style, and it didn't. Like it was like all the things that didn't make it Guardians of the Galaxy. So I mean I get it. It's tough. So let me ask you, we're getting close to the hour. I want to ask what movies or what let's say it this way, what games in your history, if you in your nerd journey through video games, would you say are prime opportunities to make something on the silver screen, the big screen, whatever it is? What adaptations do you think that have not been tapped yet? I know we got God of War coming. which has the potential of either making or breaking Sony, I think, at this point. Which I want to say this too. Sony does really good at games, but I don't know why they go the route that they do with their movies, because like the Spider-Man 2 video game is a fantastic story, and yet we have not gotten a good Spider-Man adjacent film since like
Right.
maybe what video games do you think adaptations that you think is a missed opportunity that you really think they should go for?
A lot of so, and some of it due to cool. A lot of zombie. The few things that come to my mind really quickly is I think Overwatch can have a fun Netflix series. I think Overwatch can make a very cool Netflix series. They have some cool characters. They have a lot of cool lore. And they already have these really cool cutscenes and art style going with Overwatch. So I think that could be really fun. And within the same breath, 'cause I'm going to put a slash there, even though they're not the same, but they're in the same breath of like games that you wouldn't have expected, I guess. But Apex Legends also has a pretty good story. Crazily, it has a really good one. I think what is prime and what we may even see at some point, and it will be fantastic, will be an Alan Wake television show.
Okay.
Alan Wake has the chance, if it gets adapted, which they made some deals and they're saying that there are plans to do some small screens, big screen stuff. Alan Wake can be a lot of people's favorite anything ever. Like it's dark, it's weird, it's creepy. They already play with like different mediums. They can do a 2D, they go into live action already within the games. They don't take, I would say they take themselves seriously, but they do a lot of different things. So a show for Alan Wake could be an absolutely beautiful situation. So I think I'm going to go with Alan Wake there. There's so many other good ones too, man. There's
Yeah,
Infamous.
Z's throwing stuff out. Mentioning Grand Theft Auto as a crime story series,
Honestly.
like saying
Yeah.
as like a series or an anthology.
Yeah.
This one I don't know about. Fortnite, like
It's
I feel
probably
like if they do Fortnite, I feel like we've seen like a movie that would be kind of like the Fortnite style with like Ready Player One, even though it
yes.
was a terrible adaptation to the book.
Mhm.
Like that concept of a big world, like I think that's
Yeah.
there. That's
Or
you know that.
even what is it? Wreck-It Ralph? Kind of similar vein.
Oh
Wreck-It
yeah,
Ralph, Wreck-It Ralph 2. They had like all these different cameos and fun stuff. Fortnite probably will have a movie at some point. If they're
oh
not,
yeah.
they don't care about money. You know, like they for sure.
Well, with the amount of money that Disney has put into
All that too.
Epic Games, it's probably gonna be Disney that runs it if they do it.
Yeah, that'd be
But
crazy.
the amount of IPs that Fortnite has already touched on when it comes to, I mean, from like Aliens to DC to Marvel to
Ariana
everything
Grande.
else you could think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It can be massive.
yeah, and expensive. I think
Yeah.
that's the true
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I feel like Ready Player One was that kind of that thing.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, I think Fortnite, if there was any platform, we talk about the metaverse and all of these other things. I think Fortnite is the closest to what was it? What was it called? The what was the world of Ready Player One called? It's been so
Oh,
long since I've seen
dang.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for whatever it was,
Mhm.
it's the closest to that virtual reality world as it
100%.
gets.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
100%. I'm surprised they don't do more stuff outside of Fortnite. I know Fortnite is a lot of its own, but like I could see a Fortnite festival, like a Fortnite con every year. Like they could be doing so
Mhm.
much stuff with Fortnite. It's behemoth. So yeah.
Oh man, and you think it's funny, like even if Telltale Games was still alive, like some of those things, like let's face it, like I remember when they did the Jurassic Park Telltale Games where it was kind of like
Mhm.
what was happening with Ed Hardy off to the side while the main movie was going. Like that stuff, I loved it. And then the Batman series
Yeah.
and
A lot.
the Walking Dead, like, you know, those were prime stories that could have been adapted at any time. But
Yeah.
let me ask you this last one.
Mhm.
What do you think should never be touched? What should never be turned into a movie or a series?
Ooh,
Maybe because
okay.
it's impossible, or because maybe it would be just desecrating on the property,
Ooh.
or whatever it is.
The first thing that comes
The
to my
Oasis.
mind,
Yep.
yeah, the first thing that comes to mind, um, but I don't know why this is such a touchy, sensitive thing in my head. Like, but Metal Gear Solid, I don't know. I feel like if they adapted Metal Gear Solid to see Snake on some weird stuff, like I don't know. I feel like it's both right there on the
Didn't they do
line.
like an animated series of that, or do an animated movie or something?
Actually, they did. No, actually, no. I don't think
Oh,
so. They did a little bit of Splinter Cell appeared in
okay.
this show for a little bit, and he was like some adaptation. That was interesting. But part of me feels like Metal Gear Solid is so, I don't know, like it's so not like it's like super. It is beloved, but I just feel like it's really good where it's at. Like they don't need to do anything
Mhm.
crazy. And if I had to pick something else, um, I feel like San Andreas. We don't need a San Andreas movie. Like we don't Grand Theft Auto. Like, we don't need to see. I can't even imagine the the cultural pushback that it would get. Like we don't need to see a Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Leave it where it's at. It was fun when it came out. Um,
Right.
I don't want to really see a Grand Theft Auto thing. To be honest with you, I think
Yeah.
it'd
Yeah.
be too
You know,
much.
it's funny. It's almost like was it Free Guy was kind
Yeah,
of the Grand Theft Auto
yeah,
adaptation that we like, as vanilla as it possibly could be.
yeah,
And kind of like Fortnite too, I guess, in that sense. Um
yeah.
Z said on here, Qbert, but again, then corrected, because I was about to say, except for there was Pixels, which ruined 8-bit. I don't think it did. I appreciated Pixels for what it was worth at the time.
Mm,
I
mhm.
wouldn't say it was a good video game adaptation movie. I just think it was probably another Adam Sandler film that had video games in it, if you want to
Right.
really kind of go there.
Right. Dang, now I'm
But
thinking of like Hitman, but Hitman might be kind of good actually.
well, they've done Hitman movies and
Oh, they did,
they weren't
huh? Oh,
good.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Remember they had Timothy Oliphant as the hitman in one of them.
Oh, they
Like,
did.
yeah, they've
They
done a
did.
couple of them.
They did.
It's like people would say, "Oh, Punisher would be a great movie." Yeah, we've had 2 versions of that. We don't need more.
That's true. That's true. That is very true.
Um,
Max Payne.
yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of cool stuff actually. I don't know.
The
Like,
Max Payne was a movie too.
yeah, they did do it.
Mark Wahlberg.
Everything he touches.
Uh,
Golly. Max Payne.
oh man.
That's insane.
Oh man. See,
Splinter
now I'm
Cell was
sitting here
really
thinking
cool.
about more game. Like I'm like, I don't really know a whole lot of video game movies, or at least I thought I didn't. And I'm like, oh no, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
because they just
absolutely.
came and
Yeah.
went so quick. Like they
Yeah.
just, and we remove them from our brains because they're either fantastically amazing or the
Or
worst thing
extremely
you've ever
forgettable.
seen. Like
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see Among Us is coming out with a show too, though, which is super interesting, super different.
Mhm.
I don't even know how they're going to do this, but they're coming out with a whole TV show, which sounds insane.
Now
Um,
it's funny though. I don't know if you've done this. Like, I don't know if you do anything with virtual reality, but the Among Us VR game is actually really entertaining and fun.
really,
It is like motion sickness inducing if you're not familiar with VR, but
Mhm.
just the idea of there being, it's more of a physical
Right,
game where you're actually walking through the corridors.
right.
It makes it fun, but at the same time, you could see where there's like the drama and everything else, and it would
Mm,
be interesting to see that. And I am looking forward to that. Oh, Need for Speed, but didn't we get a Need for Speed movie?
I think we got we got something from Need for Speed for sure. Actually, we did. I'm picturing the guy. Wasn't the guy from Breaking Bad in it?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
no, I remember because I was really into Ford Mustangs at the time, and I remember I thought it was a god awful looking Ford Mustang in that
yeah.
film. I was just like, no,
Yeah.
no, thank you, no. No,
Yeah. Man,
terrible.
we had a lot.
Yeah.
Man, we had a lot.
Dang.
Even World of
Man.
Warcraft.
Oh my goodness, you had to say that. Oh.
Prime
Well,
for
you
a
know,
really
it's
good
like
movie.
there is hope for World of Warcraft at some point, because let's face it, we've had Dungeons and Dragons movies. The first one was horrendous,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
um, I don't know
The
why they
last one's
do
really
what they
good
do.
though.
The last one was really good,
Yeah.
um, and has potential for stuff in the future. So yeah, I mean there is hope for redoing something if someone has. I mean, let's face it, Mario 1995, they
Yeah.
still made something new, and
Yeah.
it's okay to go back. People will forget and will forgive.
Yeah.
It's like with comic book movies, like they weren't always successful. Marvel almost never had another movie after Howard the Duck, and
Mhm.
it's because they just didn't take it seriously. And still with video games, they still don't take them seriously.
Yeah.
One I will say before we get ready to go is, um, I don't know how they would do, and I know they've done things under the title before, and I think there's stuff animated, but I don't think they could really translate Final Fantasy and do it justice to the
Yeah.
capacity of what we've seen. It's kind of like Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger too.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
so cinematic, but it's like excessively cinematic, like almost Lord of the Rings level cinematic, that you have to almost get that much investment, that you know that this is going to be a trilogy in itself, and there will be extended versions
Mhm.
for
100%.
people to even
100%.
accept it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I Final Fantasy always comes to my head, but I never know where to place it. Nowadays, I mean, we really shouldn't sleep on animation as a medium. I think
Mhm.
just make things animated, it's a lot better. Um, but nevertheless, I think it should be a show, right? I think most things
Yeah.
nowadays kind of a show would be great. But like a Final Fantasy show could possibly be something. But even then, I think that goes on a don't touch it list. Just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny though, because I think with Final Fantasy, I could see it being a long running anime.
Hmm.
Like give
Hmm.
it that, not let's not say like anime to the realms of like fairy tale and things like that, but like go like full fledged, give it like a kaiju number 8 type of treatment, or
Oh yeah.
even or like a solo leveling, because I feel like solo leveling is the Final Fantasy that we want in anime.
Right. Right.
It's
Right. Right.
it's got that style to it. And I think that's the potential that we see, going down the road. Oh, and Z throws one out there. Metroid. That would
Metroid could be
that
cool.
could that could be really cool, especially for the
Metroid.
fact of, every game was basically just another mission that went
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And
A Metro
so
could
you
actually be
could,
really cool, especially if we
yeah,
tie in some things and eventually Returnal could actually be a good movie too. That was a PlayStation exclusive that came out. But Metroid could be cool, especially with that big reveal for Samus, and we can keep the
mhm,
lore going. I think it'd be really cool.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
I guess I will say, honorable mention before we go, Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I was thinking
it,
too.
yeah,
Ratchet and Clank, Crash, and Jack and Dexter all could still be some really cool stuff. And well, Sly Cooper needs to be a thing. I can't understand why Sly Cooper is not a thing. That is insane to me. Okay, and also
yeah.
Beautiful Joe is great.
Oh, it's funny. So we were in Chicago this last April for C2E2, and our buddies, Comic Stash and uh, they used to do a show called Color Break, or they do Color Break, and then they did a video game show,
Mhm.
and they did a panel, and one of the things that they like, obsessed about was like games that were so underrated was Sly Cooper,
Yes.
and it made me like go back and watch videos and stuff, because it's like
Yes.
it is something that people really love. Like I don't know like Earthworm Jim,
Mhm.
or if even Crash Bandicoot had that, but I know Sly Cooper, and I know Ratchet and Clank and Jax. Those would definitely. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people that really kind of followed into those.
Yeah.
So,
1000%. One thousand
oh
percent.
yeah. Well, Ronell, thank you so much for joining. Just so you guys know, you can catch Ronell. Go ahead and tell us your socials again.
At 8-bit closed fist, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, all that. 8-bit closed fist.
8-bit close this. Be sure to check him out. I'll also make sure that we update the description to have his social so that you can follow him there. And just remember, this is the second to last episode of Fandoms that will be on the Nerd Initiative Network. We are going to be moving to its Fanbox. Please be sure to like and subscribe, not only on Nerd Initiative, but also on its Fanbox, which this is dual streaming right now. It's going on both with X and with YouTube. And we'd love to see you guys there. And we're looking forward to doing more stuff with user engagement. But again, Ronell, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for talking video games. It's something that we haven't done. And we probably need to do a whole lot more of, because I think people just don't talk about video games enough. And
Right.
you do it. Obviously, if you're not following you, or if someone's not following you, they're not getting enough video game content. But that's why we're friends. So by all means, thank you so much for joining. And you guys, again, be sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications for more Fandoms and everything else, including Turn a Page. And if you stick with us after, in just a few moments, Wrestling Night Live will be running with Rich and Ken. So be sure to check them out as they talk about wrestling from